Hey guys, before we start, I want to go ahead and give another shout out to Amino for sponsoring today's video. They were awesome enough to sponsor me a second time, and I'm really thankful for it. So we're back plugging the art in OCs Amino yet again. As always, Amino is a great place to connect with other creators and fans like yourself. You can post your art for everybody to see, and people can even go ahead and leave a comment on it, like I am right here. You can also check out the chat rooms that are going on. There's like a whole bunch that you can chat with other people. There's quizzes you can take, and even polls that you can submit answers to. And using the live layer, you can look to see what everybody else is up to. Along with art and OCs, there's Aminos for different YouTube animators as well if you're interested in that. There's even an Amino for me. It's fan run, but I pop in from time to time, and I even made a little quiz if you guys want to check it out. You can also check out the Amino Explore page for topics that might interest you, and some different Aminos to join related to those topics. And be sure to check me out on the Art and OCs Amino as well. There's an exclusive post on there of the finished art for this video, and it's the only place you'll be able to see it. So, thanks again to Amino, and now onto the video. Hello everyone, I am back. It's been a little bit since I've made a video. It's been really busy and all that. So just getting right into it, what I wanted to do today, since I've had a lot of questions about it, people have asked me a lot about like my process, like how I draw, how I, make the arts. So I decided to go ahead and I'm going to do a little, just sort of a walkthrough of my process, how I do things. Of course, this isn't necessarily how everyone does things or how you should do things. This is just how I do things. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. So yeah, since people are curious, I'll just basically go through my entire process of like sketch to finished piece. And I'm just gonna draw like a little Lucy or something because he's easy for me to draw, and I'll demonstrate with him. So first off, I use Photoshop. You can see by like the little icon in the corner, all that. I know Photoshop you have to pay for, but I think there are older versions that are free or like cheaper. I don't know. I use Photoshop Photoshop CC, yeah. So the Creative Cloud one. But a lot of these little tips, things don't really even matter. You can do these with any program. Like the program doesn't matter. I just happen to use Photoshop and like Photoshop. So anyways, let's start out. So a lot of people ask me what brush I use. You can't really see from here that well, but it's not a round brush. There's nothing wrong with round brushes. I just personally like this one. Let me bump it up so you can actually see what it looks like. So it looks like this. And this is the brush I use for sketching and line art. So for like, if I just plop it down, it looks kind of like that. I've always liked square brushes. And then if I like take off the opacity thing, oops, that didn't work. Take off the opacity thing and change it to have no transfer. Still, why does it still look like that? And it's probably because it's so huge. But anyways, let's put that back on and that back on. Yeah, I like using this brush. No real reason. Alright, so when I start out with a drawing, I like to sketch in like a purpley color for whatever reason. So you start by making a new little layer right there. And decent sized brush. And then up here, I know Sai has this, I'm not sure about other programs. You can change the smoothness. So if I have it on like 0, right, and well, that's not that bad. But if I'm like trying to do like a line like that, it's kind of squibbly. But if I turn up the smoothness, it like smooths it out. Yeah. So I normally don't use mine that high, so when I'm just sketching, I have it at like around a 10, around there. So when I start out with sketches, I always start out with the head, which is the usual, what most people start with. So I start with making, oh yeah, sorry if you can like hear my brush or hear my pen and all that, and clicking all my hotkeys and whatever, because I'm recording this live. And then if there's any like random sounds in the background, it's probably the dog snoring or the cat snoring or the fan I have running or whatever. Alright, so, and then I put this little line down the center to indicate the center of the face. And then I sort of make this like, I have no idea what I'm going for either. I'm just kind of going. I sort of decide the face shape right there. I like to block in the ear because it just sort of helps me with the face. Sometimes I like to put the other ear too, but I don't think from this angle it would look right. Nah. So there's that. Just gonna scooch that. And then use my rotate tool. I just have it set up with a hotkey. Rotate, you should definitely use. It's super helpful. Like if there's a certain angle that's like weird to draw just straight on, just angle it. So I highly recommend using the rotate tool. I know Sai has it, Photoshop has it, all that. So, and then when I start doing the neck, I start the neck from this sort of angle, right? I start the neck from behind the ear, and then I sort of flare it out at the end, and then sort of towards the other side of the chin. I actually don't like, oops, my eraser's really teeny tiny. Doop, doop, doop. Then I sort of, oh my god, I'm still on my eraser, okay. Flare it out from the other end too. And this one goes down a little further if you're not doing a straight on view. Do that. What I like to do, it's a bit of a thick neck for Lucy, but whatever, it's just a sketch. It's just a sketch. Okay. To indicate like what is it, the trapezius? No, it's not the trapezius. This area, like above the collarbone, I know the muscle, I just don't remember the name of it. I like to just sort of do this little thing. I do this with a lot of my drawings. This is how I start out. If I was doing a headshot, like this would just be my sketch right there. I'm not gonna do a full body because I don't feel like it. So I'm just gonna do like a little like waist up sort of view. So yeah, that's how I basically do that part of the body. And then to add in like the shoulders, oops, and the chest, I just sort of go from here. Obviously, like, don't follow my anatomy to be like, you know, the end all be all. Like, look at real references for anatomy. I stylize my anatomy a bit, so it's not completely accurate, and some of the inaccuracies are just things I like for aesthetic. Because, you know, what looks nice might not always look right, if you know what I mean. So for the chest, I usually just do this sort of like this shape. I tend to do kind of barrel chests, just because I don't know, I like how they look. And then I block in the shoulders with little circles, and then go from here and here, and that's how I make the sort of waist or stomach area. And then I'm just gonna cut them off right there. And then, of course, like going up into the stomach area, there's these muscles right here. So there's that. So, and then adding the arms, let me look at this for a second. Is it? The head might be a little big, but I can change that. Let's just grab it. Oops. I'm very messy with my base sketches. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so then I go in and do the arms. Usually my arms just sort of start out when I'm figuring out like what pose I want to do. Let me just make a new layer and I'll use a different color. So when I'm figuring out what sort of pose I want to do, I just sort of use like little lines and stuff until I figure out what I want to do, which I have no idea what I want to do with this one. I don't really, maybe I'll just like have his arm down, like one arm down, right? And the other one up, maybe? No, see, this is difficult. Okay, well, I'll speed this up while I figure out what I want to do with his arms right here. So give me una momento to figure out what I'm gonna do with this boy. Okay, so this isn't terrible. So kind of have his arms doing that. And then I go in and, oops. You know, he looks a little stiff, so I'm just gonna go in and change a couple things. Make him look a little more alive. So like his head shape, or his head angle, move that a little bit. Maybe send that arm down a little more and that one up a little more. Alrighty. And then that's basically all I do for my base sketches. So then I just go, let's merge those. I just go right onto my, my more refined sketch, right? I'm like making hand motions like you guys can see me, but so yeah, so I like to lower the opacity a little bit of this. And then I just go in and start sketching it out. So, drawing Lucy, so I always start with the eyes, just out of habit. So Lucy's eyes, he has a very rounded upper lid, like this, and then his lower lid is kind of just flat across with his little eyelash. So that's how I draw his eyes. One thing people ask me too is how do you get your characters to look different from each other? Most of my characters have a different eye shape, which is one way, so I'll show an example over here. So I'm just gonna do really quick little blibs. So Lucy's eyes are like this shape. And then he has like this little weird shaped pupil that I don't know why I do it that way, but I do. Sanka has a very flat upper lid and a curved, or well, like a angled lower lid. So it's kind of the opposite of Lucy's. And then he just has like these little stylized irises with like no visible pupils on there or whatever. Then my other OC, the one you saw in the fantasized meme, Kieru, he has sort of like wavy eyes. So his kind of like go like this, right? His upper lid kind of does that, and then his bottom lid kind of follows. So he has kind of that and that sort of dealio, right? So that's just 3 examples of eyeballs, and they're still all kind of like that anime style, right? But they all look different, so that's something to keep in mind when you're creating characters, is eye shapes can really differentiate them. So let me just, oops, bloop those out of there. Oh, so let's continue. Where did you get this thing on his head? Okay, so let me just, I guess he'll be looking this way. So I'll just work on getting his eyes kind of done. Now, one thing I really love that you can do in Photoshop, you can do it inside too, is the free deform sort of thing, or like perspective deform or whatever. So I use that a lot if like I like the sort of shape of something, but maybe the angle isn't quite right or the perspective isn't quite right. I just use that to mush it around a little bit. Not sure how I feel about this eye yet. Might not be right. So let's see, let me add the nose and then I'll be able to tell. So what I like to do with noses, I like to start out by putting a little circle. So that little circle is just shows me like where the tip of the nose is going to be. So that's about right. And of course you can draw noses however you draw noses, but this is just how I do it. I do that little line, then a little nostril line, and then just as a personal preference, right? I like to do this little like shape around it. I saw some artists, they do like a full circle like around the nose or whatever to like define where the this would be the outer edge of the nostril, but I didn't want to do that. I used to actually kind of draw like that, and like I used to do like a full nose, but I don't know, I just kind of, I really like the look of just doing this little dealio around it, if I could do it. I'm failing miserably right now. It takes me a couple tries to get a shape that I like. Of course, when I'm like trying to do it, that's when I can't do it. Oh my god, I'm failing. Well, let's see. So, and then I kind of cheat and I put the tip of the nose kind of, yeah, that's better. And then, that's fine for now. So I do kind of that sort of dealio. And that's just how I like to draw noses. But I used to draw them very realistic and they were super uggo. So it's like that and the bottom of the nostril and then that, and then you like do that, and then you have the other nostril over there, and all this sort of stuff going into it, right? Nose. And there you have a nose. I just don't really like drawing it that way anymore because my style has changed a lot. So, Okay, so now looking at this eye doesn't look so terrible. I also like to put this line up here to indicate the bridge of the nose. So let's add the other iris. And both of Lucy's pupils go the same direction, so they both go that way. Add his little beauty mark. And then for the eyebrows, make sure you follow like the line of the eye socket in the nose, and follow the curve of the head. And that's not the same shape as the other one, but I kind of like that one better. So then you just change the other one. Art's easy, folks. Let's just, you don't like it, just change it. There you go. Done skis. So there's that. So that gives you the basic little shape, right? Gives you an idea. So let me just go on and do more of his face. One thing I was always taught about ears, which is like super helpful advice, because I see a lot of people mess up ear placement. So if you have like the profile of a head, right? So there's the nose, and the eyes are right here, lips. So I see a lot of people putting the ears like way up here, or like way down here, or just like it just in weird places they put the ears. So when you have a head, here's the neck, skull, the head. The ears are actually in the bottom, the lower back quadrant of the ear, or the head. So they'd be like here. So if you split the head up into, they'd be down here. And that's just a really helpful way to do your ear placement. Now, also when I'm drawing a character and I'm drawing the head, right? I always start out with just the basic head shape before I add any hair or anything. This is so messy up here. So I start out with the basic head shape. That way I know, you know, how big the head is and where the hair is going to be. Depending on the character as well, if they have like slick back hair where you see their forehead, I'll also add where their hairline would be. So like that. And that just gives you an idea of where the hair goes, so it's not just everywhere. So I'm gonna go in and put in his hair, and his hair is just very anime styled. Like, it doesn't really conform correctly, because if I were to do it correctly, you know, you start from a little spot back there, right, and then you like has to do that sort of deal, which I guess it kind of does, but whatever. I'm just gonna draw in his hair real quick. And then I like to do my hair on a separate layer, so then I can just go in and erase the guidelines of the head underneath and say, you know, I like that hair, but I want it to be fluffier. What I do, and this is a bit of a cheat, I don't know if other programs have this tool. I don't think they do. I open up my liquify tool in Photoshop, and I do the I don't know, the make fatter one. And I just boop, and it sort of like makes it a little bit bigger. And then I can take just the little smushy around one and sort of change things a little bit so I can make his hair look a little foofier. So, wait for it to load, and there it is. So now his hair is a little fluffier. I like to add little extras too, like, I don't know, make it look cute. Okay. And then I add his little earring. All right, so there is the face done. Make this eye a little. There we go. Okay. So then I can go in and start on the body. So I recommend drawing out the basic body shape before you add any clothes to it. I just find that it tends to look better than if you just try to go straight in with clothes without kind of knowing what the body looks like underneath. So let me start out and draw Lucy's bod. Alright, and once I've got the basic sketch of the body down, I go in and I add the clothes. So I'm just gonna put like a what should I put on him? I think I'm just gonna do a like a big ol' long sleeve baggy shirt. Yes, so after I do all the body, I just go in and add that. And remember when you're doing clothes to make sure they, go with the, oh my god, I can't speak, the like curves of the body and all that. Make sure they flow, I guess, with everything. And if you're having difficulties figuring something out, it's just a sketch. So say I can't figure out where this side of the collar is gonna go. I can just do this, like it's going around the back, right? And coming around this way. And there you go. And then I just go and erase those lines. Super easy. That's what's great about drawing digitally. I mean, you can do that traditionally as well, just like with a light little pencil sketch or something. So I'm just gonna go in and draw this clothing item on him. Now, once I go in and add the clothing item, I like to erase the bits that are underneath, just so I can see it better. Sometimes I'll just make them a lower opacity, but I'm just gonna erase them. So you can tell too that this shirt is, you know, looks like it's big on him by the amount of wrinkles and stuff in it. If it were something that fit on him, it would, you know, hug the body more. The shoulder seam would be more where it should be instead of down here. So just from that little thing, you can tell that this might not be his shirt. So, all right. So then I add all my little extra details, so such as his scar, which just goes down right the front. Doop. Do, 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 do. Mm-hmm. All right, so his little scar, and then after I do all that, I am actually ready for the line art. So, whoops, what I do? Okay, so I go ahead and I delete the base sketch layer, and then I like to merge all these together. And sometimes what I'll do as well is make them all one color. So to do that, you can use just like an alpha lock. So like this little thing, and then you just like do that and whatever. But I prefer to make a little clipping mask, fill up the clipping mask, and then I just sort of lower it a little bit so all the colors are a little more cohesive, but they're still similar. No reason to do that. You don't need to do that. That's just how my brain makes it go. So then line art. Click. So I do my line art in pure black because I feel like it. So I lower the opacity of the sketch a little bit. Then I make myself a new layer. And like I said, I just use the same brush. I just turn off this the little opacity thing. So with it on, kind of looks like that. With it off, it looks like that, this is what I want. So then I also go in and turn off the transfer because I don't know, sometimes you could tell. Okay, so I just zoom in and I start. I like to do the eyes on a separate layer at first, and I'll show you why. So let me just start doing this. Turn up my smoothing a little bit, and okay, let's start. Okay, so the reason I like to do my eyes and stuff on a different layer is purely aesthetic. Oh, who's messaging me? So what I like to do is go and make my eraser brush at like 50 opacity, and then I just like to go in and do this. I like to erase away the stuff that's under hair. So, you know, it's not completely blocked off by the hair, but you can still see that the hair is going over it. Again, it's another one of those things that it's like, it might not be right or accurate, but I like how it looks. Oof, these lines are like way thicker than I usually do. But, alright. Anyways, let me finish on with lining him. Alright, and there we have the finished sketch, or well, the finished line art. So then, let me just make this a little neater down here. Yeah, this is just something I personally like to do, is fill in like the really dark bits of shadow with just pure black, like right there. So now we need to color, right? So what I like to do before I start coloring, let me just merge that down, is I don't like to color on white, because you can miss things and it's bright and it hurts your eyes and all that. So I like to choose a color that's like a color that I'm not really going to use in the piece. So say with this one, probably not going to use like reddish tones. So maybe something like that would look good in the back. And maybe a little darker so it doesn't get confused for skin tone. Okay, so something like that. You see his little scar, you can barely see like that, but whatever. So then what I do is, I should have prepared this beforehand, but I go and I grab a file that has like the color references in it, because I like to use the same colors for everything. I have a million files in here. Alright, so let's look at my Lucy files. Which one is a good color reference for him? There's one that I always use. Where is it? Where are we? This one. Alright, so I like to, this is a really old picture I did. But, so I like to grab that for a skin, and I'm just gonna bloop it over here. So, this is his skin tone, then his hair, and I never liked this gray very much, but let me just darken it a little bit. All right, and that's for his underside of his hair, and then just his eye color. All right, and that's pretty much all I need. So what I'm gonna do is make a new layer, and so I'm gonna start with his skin. So because this is open right here, if I use the paint bucket, it's just gonna go everywhere. So instead, I'm gonna put just a little line to cut it off. And then the way I fill in my flats is I use the magic wand tool. I select all the parts that are gonna have that color, and I just hold down Shift as I'm using it. Sometimes you really gotta zoom in to get certain little areas. Ooh, I'm burping. So I do that. There we go. So all that's selected, right? Now this is just a Photoshop thing. There's lots of ways to fill in your flats, but this is just the quick way I found to do it in Photoshop that I like to do. Do modify, oops, not contract. So I select everything I want, I go to the select, oh my god, please, computer. Modify, expand selection, I expand it by 3 pixels, and then I fill it in. Because if you don't expand it and make it like bleed into the line art a little bit, you get, let me show you, you get, oh my god. Why is it not doing it terribly right now? Okay, of course, but it like doesn't go all the way in to the lines, and a lot of times you can get like a little bit of like banding around the edges, and it just doesn't look good. So that's why you just want to kind of make it bleed into the line art a little bit. So I'm just gonna go in and fill in all these flats, and I do them on different layers too, depending on what I'm doing. So I'm gonna show the shading on this, so I'm gonna do different layers. And it's not perfect, so sometimes you have to go in and kind of fix some of the little things yourself. Like it has trouble getting into like little itty bitty corners and stuff, so I just go in and I fill those in by hand. One thing to remember when you're making something white, never make it completely white. So this is going to be a white shirt he's wearing, but I'm kind of doing a light bluish color for it. Because if you start out with just plain white, you have nowhere else to, oh wait, did I miss a spot? If you start out with plain white, you have nowhere to like go from there, if you get what I mean. Where did I miss? It's like selecting a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. Alright. So, as I was saying, so if you just start out with white, you have nowhere to go from there if you want to add highlights, because you're already at like the highest you can go. So with this, right, if I then do it lighter, you can still see a lighter tone on it. So, and it still reads as white. Nothing is ever completely white. Let me just fix up the little bits. With this method too of doing it, normally you'll get this around the edges if you like have to block it off. So I just go in and I fix those. I have to fix it on this layer too. Yeah, I don't know why it does that, but whatever. Easy enough to fix. Alright, and then I just like to do the eyes underneath the hair layer. So same with eyes, the sclera, the white part. It's never completely white. I like to do it as a sort of reddish tone because there's a lot of blood vessels in your eyes, and your eyes have a naturally reddish tone to them. Of course, you can change this depending on your character. Like if your character has like green blood, maybe their eyes will be a little bit more of a greenish hue. Stuff like that. Stuff to think about. So just do that, and then grab his eye color, and do this. These I just fill in by hand with the brush tool because it's easy. All right. So there, oh, I have to do a scar too. I keep forgetting things. So with this scar, I just make it like a little bit of a more reddish tone of his skin color. Doop. And apparently I missed some spots here. Well, actually, let's see, it might be because it's too close to the skin color. So this is something you can do too if something is too close in color and it won't select. But no, I just think I need to fill this in by hand. Because that's the one problem with the magic wand tool is, let me unselect. It'll sometimes, like if colors are too similar, it'll read them all as the same thing. So I'll just go and fill this by hand. Alright, so there's a Lucy. Cool beans. So, people often ask how I shade. What brushes do I use to shade? So the brush I use to shade is this one right here. What is it called? What are you called? Hard round pressure opacity. That's what I use. And then I just press this little opacity button and I'm good to go. And this is just a Photoshop default brush. Nothing special. So when I go to shade, I add myself another layer over the layer I want to shade. I make it a clipping mask, and then I take whatever the color is. So say I'm doing skin. Skin has reddish undertones. I'm gonna move my color slider down a little bit. Make it a little bit of a deeper, redder color. And then I just go in and let me turn this down a little bit. I block in those bits of color. Now the way I do shading is nothing special. I just color pick sort of the edge and am I on the right? And there we go. And then I just start doing that. And I just keep color picking as I go. Nothing really special to it. Just a lot of color picking. And then it blends out a little bit. And you can see it's still kind of like streaky because of the brush I'm using. I don't really mind that too much. I think it looks okay. If I, make the brush bigger, obviously I can kind of cover that a little better. And then just, doing loads of color picking. But when you're looking at it from like this far away, you're not going to really be able to tell. And you don't want to overblend either. So I'm just going to go in and blend all this out. So once I get all this shading all blended out and looking nice and soft, I usually like to go in and add another slightly darker shade to it, just to add a little bit extra. So I'm just going to go in and put all that in. Alright, so I'm just going simple on shading today, and that's enough shadows for me today. So then I go in and add the highlights. Now, I like to do highlights in really you should do it in whatever your light source color is. I like to do it sort of with this yellowy, whitish color. I just go in with this airbrush brush. This is my lazy way of doing it. I go in with the airbrush, and I just sort of map down, and this is on another layer again, and I just sort of map down where the highlights would be, So I just put those in really fast. Doop, 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 doop. Normally I'd be a little bit more precise with this, but this is just for example's sake. And I like to do sort of a light highlight on the belly. Alright, so I get all that. Then what I do is I just go to Gaussian blur, and I just sort of blur it. So, kind of like that. So, did not do it. Whoops, I pressed cancel. So, just kind of fiddle it till you like it. And then, like that. And then I just make it an overlay layer. And I lower the opacity. Let's see how it looks as a normal layer. I might just keep it as a normal layer. Cool. So you might not be able to tell very much that it's there, but if I toggle it on and off, you can tell a little more. Can't tell a whole lot, but it's there. Makes a difference. And then I just like to add my own little personal things to this. So with skin, I like to add some reddish, blushy undertones, things, whatever. So in the cheeks, I like to add some there. Kind of going across the nose, getting the whole, making it very animu. Tip of the nose. A little bit on the lips there, tip of the ears, collarbone, knuckles. I like to do a little on the hips, and just, oops, very slightly on the belly and the chest. So obviously I don't leave it like that. So I again go to the Gaussian blur, and I kind of blur it out. And then I make it a multiply layer, and I lower the opacity. So it's still there, and it just gives more depth to the skin. And then I have like a million shading layers. What I do is I go over the top with another clipping mask. I take a sort of purpley color, and I go in and I mark in all my hard shadows, as I like to call them. So basically just anything that is like a cast shadow. So like right here where clothing would be casting like a little bit of a shadow on his hands, right there. Down here where the clothes would be casting a shadow on him. I like to add maybe a little bit right there, just the hip. Again, where the clothes would cast a shadow. And sometimes I do this like as one big layer at the end, but like just over the top of everything, but I'm just doing it like this. Just like that. The hair, where the hair casts a shadow. And these, doing this, I feel like just really makes things pop. Because if I go right here with the hair piece, and I do that little shadow underneath, and that little shadow right there, it really makes the hair look like it's, you know, coming out. So yeah, I just add it kind of in those places. Not too much. Sometimes I go more hardcore with this, but just being simple today. Adding a little more. Being simple, I say, as I start adding more and more and more. Okay, so like that. And then some people would just leave it like that, which is totally cool if it fits your style, but I like to make it a multiply layer, so then you can see the other shading underneath. So make it a multiply, and then again I lower the opacity to wherever I like it. Cool. And then I add yet another layer. You could stop after this if you wanted to. This is just my own personal preference of what I like to do. I take another one of these really yellowy, whitish things, and I go in and I add just little pop highlights. Like little backlighting things, little whatever. They honestly make no sense with lighting, but I like how they look, so I do them. So right there. I usually put them in like the same place too. It makes no sense in terms of, you know, actual light sources and whatever, but I really enjoy how they look. I think they make everything just pop more and look nicer and whatever. This is just what I do. You don't have to follow my instructions. So let's add those in there. Add it right here on the hip. Make it look nice and crisp. One place that, you know, it is kind of important to add, with at least Lucy, is around his scar. So it makes the scar look more inset. So just gonna quickly go around right here, right around the edge. This just helps add some depth to it. Boop, 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 boop. It doesn't make it just look like, you know, it just plopped there on his skin, which, you know, his scar kind of goes by anime physics of scars, but whatever. Okay, so you got that, right? Got your little highlights. And then overlay. And then they just look like that. And I like how that looks, so just gonna keep it right like that. So I'm just gonna go in and shade the rest of this. So, whew, I'm sleepy. Okay, let's go. Now, the way I like to shade hair is entirely not accurate, but this is just how I enjoy doing it. Don't really remember why I started doing it this way, but I really like the look of it, so I do it. You know, it doesn't have to be completely accurate, but you just gotta have fun with it. So I like doing this like really heavy little shadow, like right through the middle. Let me change it. Adjust the color a little bit. Make it a little bit more. Let's see. nah, whatever, it's fine the way it is. So yeah, just this kind of like gradient, and then I like to go over and do my highlights also as a gradient. I don't know why, I just really dig the way this looks. And I know it's entirely inaccurate that real hair doesn't work this way, but it's my style. Yeah. So if I was gonna, you know, try to draw something realistic, obviously I wouldn't do the hair like this, but I'm just drawing anime boys or whatever, so who cares? Just do this little gradient, get your little shinies, then I overlay, opacity, done skis. And then sometimes I'll just go in and add like really bright, oops, little highlights. Why? I don't know. I just think it looks pretty cool. So I put it like right along the line of where the gradient starts. And I'll add a little one right there too. Like that, and then I'll make that an overlay as well, and I don't know, I think it looks cool. I like it. That's half of art, is just being like, I like this thing, so I'm gonna do it that way. Okay, I'm just gonna finish shading his shirt. So that's about all I do when I'm drawing a basic picture. Then normally what I tend to do, just to, I don't know, make it look nice, I guess, is I'll make a little layer down here, select the outside of whatever character I'm doing. I will select inverse. I will make that black. Just in case I missed any little bits, it'll fill it in and make it look like line art. And then I like to do this in Photoshop. There's other ways to do this in other programs, but this is just the easy way to do it in Photoshop. So I like to just put a stroke around the edge, and it just makes things look nice, I think. So I do that. And then what I like to do as well is, so again, I select all that, select inverse. I like to put a little, like an overlay color layer over everything. So I overlay, and then I just move down the opacity. It just kind of helps tie all the colors together, I feel. So this is without, this is with. There's not too much difference, but, oh, my cat decided to come say hello. But I just like the look it gives. And depending on the color that you use, you can give yourself a different effect. So say instead of pink, I used like indigo color. So let's make that a layer mask. So say I did that, then it would look more like this. And when I made it lighter, you see? Or if I did green, gives everything that sort of look. red, like that. So you just gotta decide what looks nice, what you like. Yeah, I like to do the sort of light pink, that. And then if you want, you can even, this is always fun to do, you can make it gradient as well. And then bring it down. Doop. Doop. There you go. And yeah, I just like how it looks. I think it's nice. Obviously, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. But yeah, let me just crop this a little bit. Oh my god, all my animals are walking in and you can hear them. So I just crop. And there you go. That's how I go from start to finish with little doodles like these. Yep, not much to it. This was probably a pretty long video. I don't know how good it'll be because I haven't done one like a voiceover while I've been live drawing before, so I don't know how it'll sound, how all the noises of the environment will sound around me, because I have like fans running, other computers running, animals, planes flying overhead, thunder outside. There's a lot going on. But yeah, this is how I do things. So you're welcome to, you know, try any of these things that I do. I hope it helped a little bit, giving you guys an idea of how I draw, how I make things, how I do the art. This obviously isn't like my best piece of work. This isn't like my magnum opus. Like normally I'd probably make the line art a little bit thinner, but I wanted to be able to get it whipped out pretty quick. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Oh, I should probably save this, huh? I haven't saved the entire time. Let's okay, there we go. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, you can ask them in the comments. Can't guarantee you'll get an answer, but by golly, I can try. So thanks for watching, you guys. See you later.